Hi, everybody. My name is Andrew LeBlanc.
And I'm Eric Lewis.
And welcome to the final Town Talk episode of 2020. And we have a great one for you today. We are so pleased to have Her Worship Mayor Ann Seamans with us. Thanks for being here.
I'm thrilled to be here with you guys tonight.
Thanks so much for joining us. As Andrew said, we want to talk a bit about the year that was 2020, how that impacted the town, the highlights, the challenges you faced, those kinds of things. But let's first start with you. You've been on council for quite a number of years. Can you tell us sort of when you got involved and why?
I got involved 22 years ago in 1998, and things were right for me at the time. I was a single mom, and the boys were at an age where I felt that I could expand. I wanted to look at something that would always was interested in municipal politics, but something that I could do that would be very interesting and help the town or help where the town was going to go. And like the time was just right. So I decided to run. And also I was in real estate, and I knew that they would both complement each other really well, because I would also have the inside story of how things really worked and whatever that I could explain to my clientele. And one of the things that when I first came on, and I have to tell this story, is Eric, your grandmother, was the only female councillor on downtown council at the time, Tressa Lewis, and she was so awesome. Like, she just took me under wing, and she was a mentor to me. But at the time, I'm not sure what the dates were, but I'm saying she was on council for at least 12 years, maybe 14.
Yeah, I think it was 15. I could be off on that.
But that was be very close. And I remember looking at her and seeing her enthusiasm and how much she was still had that enthusiasm. And I'm thinking, you can only be on municipal politics as long as you have the enthusiasm, right? And I'm thinking, bless her heart, to still have it after that many years. I can't even imagine that I would ever last that long. And here I am 22 years later.
Even after she retired, right up until she passed, unfortunately, a little over 2 years ago, and right up until toward the end, we still talked about town issues and town things because I had an interest in it, and we were always sharing stories, and I would tell her what I'd heard, and she'd tell me sort of the history of things that I wouldn't have otherwise known. So she always had that. That's great.
Oh yeah, and I'm going to tell you one thing that she supported me when I ran for mayor and whatever, but right up until, like you say, she was gone. If she had a problem with anything I was doing or that wasn't going right in the town, she called me.
She would not hesitate to tell someone if there was a problem. There's no question there.
Yeah, it was really great.
When you started, did you anticipate a lengthy term or possibly becoming mayor one day? Was that a goal for you?
Never a goal. Never even thought about that. Like I said, it was just, in fact, the very first time I ran, at large, there was quite a few people who were running. And I'm like, I ran at large because I didn't know exactly where I'd be living in the town. And I thought if you did happen to win, but never thinking that I would. But thinking, okay, even if I don't, but my name is on the ballot, everyone will see it at large. And then maybe if they don't vote for me as a counselor, they'll think of me when they go to buy a house.
So it was very strategic. That's excellent.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but and I did win, and it was really great. And then 9 years ago, when Mayor Sweetland was not going to run again, I thought I was done too. I figured the time was right not to run as counselor. And he really encouraged me to, and my husband Skip, to run for mayor. And I thought, well, it's okay. Like I feel I could do a really good job as mayor, but you have to be prepared. If you don't win, you're out, right? So I was at that stage. It was either move on, but it was never a thing that I even thought of when I first ran that I would ever run for mayor.
Now you've had a number of milestones in your political career, but obviously one really important one is you were the first female mayor for the town of Riverview. How does that carry any amount of significance for you? That's a huge accomplishment for women and young girls. You're a great role model for them to encourage them to get involved. What kind of significance does that play for you?
The biggest thing, and I never even really thought about it when I was running for mayor. I never really, in fact, it was the election night that when I was down, and one of the reporters came up and said, "You realize if you win that you're going to be the first woman mayor in the tri-community."
Mm.
And I hadn't really even thought about that. But, because I've always thought that it's the right person for the job more than anything else. But I'm going to say that I am proud that I have been the first woman mayor. And I'm very proud having 4 little granddaughters that they look up at me with pride, and they know that they can do whatever they want. And 2 of them, I would think out of the 4, I'd say 2 might be prime minister one day.
Well, let's hope so.
I don't know if it would go that far, but you can see them running for student council or that sort of thing. And that's exciting. I love that, be part of it all.
So we could spend a ton of time this evening talking about all the different things, even just during your time as mayor, with some of the things that you've done in terms of starting the committee to look at the recreation complex and advancing the work on Mill Creek and everything. But I think tonight we'll focus primarily on 2020, just to do a year in review. We can't go much further without addressing COVID-19. And, Your Worship, you and I have both been involved in a lot of conversations about how to address it, and have been working with staff on seeing how they've dealt with the many challenges that we faced. What's your overall impression of how the town of Riverview has handled the pandemic so far?
I'm really proud of how we've handled it, really, staff and whatever. I mean, this is something this time last year, nobody had any idea that we would go through that. We were just finished our budgets, we were working, and we had a plan for the future. And then everything closed down in March. And no one knew, nobody had, that wasn't anything that we had planned ahead of time. So there's nothing that we could have prepared for. But staff worked really hard, and we were one of the first communities that had 100% of our staff back to work by May. And, that was really exceptional, because we were the only community that I know of that had everyone back that Zoom, and really great measures in place that we didn't have to worry, that we were all safe. That was one thing. Another thing was a challenge. I mean, when you're doing your budget, what we're expecting to have for revenue and what we're expecting to have for expenses. Well, that went right crazy, obviously, because, any place that we could have had revenue, they were closed down, like our arenas and the Coverdale Center and all of those things. So that revenue was not there. All the parks and recreation and everything that we do in the summertime, and having to have students that we had hired and not being able to hire them, all those things, staff worked really hard to, and council, to make sure that this was done in a way that was as less painful as it could be for the citizens. So I'm really proud of that. And the other thing that they did, that staff did, and guided council towards this, is making sure that at the end of the year that we weren't in a deficit position, like that they were looking like in late summer or whatever, this is where we are, and getting the departments to look at where they could cut and what they could do, so that we weren't in that kind of a position at the end of the year. So those are all things I think that we could be really proud of. Maybe you can think of a few things too, Deputy Mayor.
Well, I think on that point, I mean, we just finished in our last council meeting talking about even some of that relief program that the province has for municipalities who may have been negatively impacted. And I think one of the positives I took away from that conversation was that Riverview did such a good job at forecasting and trying to be proactive in our response that we actually don't qualify for that relief funding, because we're not in the financial position to have been impacted in a negative way because of the pandemic. So, I think that's, like you said, I think that speaks volumes to the staff that we have and their ability to forecast and plan and adapt quickly. And the same for council to be able to do that same thing and go through that process. So, yeah.
No, definitely. One of the great things that happened this year, though, are building permits that are at a 10-year high, and that's really exciting. To see that and all that's happening in our town. Being a residential town, we weren't impacted as much as some commercial places that the assessment was actually going down on those buildings because obviously they aren't being, but in residential, the assessments are actually going up. Homes are selling above the assessed value. So that's really positive for our town too. So when you're looking at the positive that happened this year, that and real estate is really booming. And we're going to see this continue into 2021 because people are building the apartment buildings that are needed and for homes. So I think we're going to see a really great 2021 as far as our building permits go also.
That was a great segue into our next question for you, Eric. So,
well, I wanted to talk a bit about other highlights. So that we talked about the pandemic. Let's set that aside for now. What were some other highlights for you throughout the year? I mean, obviously that was the dominant topic, but there had to have been other things that you were able to accomplish and that council and staff were able to do that stand out.
One of the ones that I'm really proud that council made the decision is to move ahead Bridgedale Boulevard. That was something that was in our 10-year plan, but it wasn't planned for this year. And as you all know, the causeway was supposed to close in 2020, and that was delayed by the province to 2021. So that gave us that opportunity to move that project, $6 million project forward. And that is really one of the positive things that I can think of that happened this year too. And that is, again, planning ahead that the council and staff have done, prepare for what is going to happen next year.
I think that project has also opened up a lot of opportunity for more residential growth up in the East End too, because there's a lot more access to, now that Runnymede has been finished up to Bridgedale Boulevard, there's some more opportunity for growth there. So like you said earlier, there's lots of opportunity for more residential growth moving forward into 2021 and beyond. So.
And that's not just residential, because when you look at that area and the road that is going in, the first, I'm not sure of the number of acres, but is commercial, zone commercial. So
That's right.
it's really opening up a lot of land for development for our town. So that's really exciting.
I think another one of the
hub too.
No, you go ahead, Eric.
No, it's an interesting hub too, because you get to the end of Bridgedale Boulevard, or the end as it stands right now, with the roundabout, and Mill Creek is there, and I believe the wellness center is ultimately planned to go in that area too. So that's
recreation complex. Recreation
complex. Yeah.
I'm going to call it a lot of things. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and that is up in that area. Exactly. Like, I mean, that's one of the things it's opening up for development, but I mean, this is one of the developments. I heard, some people concerned that this should go farther. Well, this is the first step of that road. It will continue on to Route 114, but it is really as all our growth in the last few years has been in East End, Riverview, and so this is really all of those homes and whatever that have been built. That gives them great access to the rest of the town of Riverview, and not have to sit down on Hillsborough Road waiting to get, it's another alternate route. So it's going to be really, it's one of those roads that there's a lot of people using it already. It's not like sometimes it takes people a while, but they're already using it a lot, which is really great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We've been using it a lot now too, because it opens up the East End to get up into Finley Park and to access that whole area. So it's been great for that. In terms of some other great things that happened over the last year, obviously, well, this is the first episode that we did on Town Talk. We talked about the sale of the Fundy Chocolate River Station and how much of a positive impact that's going to have for the town of Riverview. Do you have any thoughts on that particular project?
That's a really exciting project for the town. I mean, that's going to close, hopefully. My real estate, you're never really sure of anything until it actually happens, but the closing date is the end of March. And that's going to bring new life and growth to our downtown area. And the businesses that are down there, I mean, really give them a great support of people that will. And I think we've addressed, there's a lot of people who had concerns, and I think we've addressed those because they were not afraid that it was going to affect the whole area, but it is not. It's just that area where the Chocolate River Station is and the vacant lot beside it. So But what that is going to do to the downtown and bring residential growth down there, I'm really looking forward to seeing that going forward. And I mean, you have to be, rather than going in a deficit, we're going to be actually getting revenue on the taxes from this property. So that's pretty exciting too. And it'll affect all the citizens because they, what we need to do we need the revenue obviously to go forward. So eventually that will be $500,000 to $500,000 a year in revenue for other things that we can do on streets and whatever. So.
And I think it's about being, smart and creative and managing the growth that we have for the town, because, the things that people really love are the programs and the services that we run, but they're also really proud of the snow clearing that our crews do and the road maintenance and things like that. And as we keep growing, there's going to be more demands on us financially to be able to maintain that level of service. And so projects like this really give us an opportunity to stay ahead of that growth and to manage it really well. So there's some pretty exciting things that are going to happen from that. Any other highlights? I mean, I think there's some, like what we've seen growth in Mill Creek. We've seen lots of other.
Mill Creek, I'm so proud of when you see all the trails, and I see, Eric, you've been going there quite a bit lately. You've been posting pictures.
Yeah. And, there and the Dobson Trail, the two, I've been frequenting those a lot lately.
Yeah, and but I mean, when you see each year the changes and the positive growth that's happening there, and more people are enjoying it, and that's so great. So all of those things, we can sit back and be proud of planning ahead and looking to the future for sure.
I wanted to step back to the Chocolate River Station for a minute because I have the opportunity here. I asked the deputy mayor in our previous episode about this. I'd love to ask you. This is a topic that the list of positives is quite lengthy, but you still have that sort of emotional reaction that some residents have.
Exactly.
Change can be concerning. And so when you have to wrestle with this as a councillor or as a mayor, weighing the pros and cons and that kind of thing, how do you address those concerns when you've got residents who might not want to see a particular project move ahead?
What I've always said to council is that what we have to do is we have to educate ourselves. We have to know all the facts. We have to make the decision on facts and not on emotions. People never like change. That's not something that any of us will embrace for sure. But as a council, you have to do what you believe is good for the town. It's going to change the look of the town, but when you look back years ago, what downtown Riverview looked like, and there was a picture posted I saw not too long ago about what Riverview looked like in the 70s. And I mean, I moved here in the 70s, but I can't remember it ever looking like that. And maybe I was one of the ones who might have been upset when they made some changes. I don't know, but we adjust and we go from there. And this is going to look different. For sure. It'll be a different look, but it's going to look different as far as seeing activity downtown and the businesses, the benefits that they're going to get too. So
right.
One final highlight, if I could, the Christmas lights. It's such a positive thing for the town. It's something that has really gotten a lot of reach on social media too. Like, a lot of people are talking about it. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about how that whole idea even came to be and how that started?
Well, it's one of the ones that it's everything that's ever happened while I've been on as mayor is always teamwork, right? But that was my idea. I take it. I used to talk before I was mayor. I'd talk to the business community. I'd say, if people go back to Irish Town Road and they'll stop on the side and they're lined up to look at the home there that's so beautifully lit up on Irish Town Road, if we did something like that in Riverview along the riverfront, we'll have people coming here, and if they come here, they're going to support our businesses, And I talked about this, and it never ever happened. And so when I became mayor, I put a committee in place, and you see what's happened today, and that will continue to grow. But everything that I said is actually happening. Like, people are coming here, and before COVID, of course, people actually came from outside the region to come to Riverview to do that. So they're not just going to come here and look at the lights. They're going to support business.
Mhm.
So that's really, really exciting. And it's really fun to see it grow every year. And every time I drive and see families enjoying it, it just does my heart good.
Where do you see that going? Do you have other things in mind in terms of how you might grow it over the next couple of years?
Well, as a committee, what we've done, I think there's around $30,000 a year that is put into this, into the budget for this. And unfortunately, well, it's not unfortunate, it's just part of it, but about 5,000 of that has to go into maintenance. And sometimes there has been some vandalism that has happened, all of those things. And then a lot of the money, like as you're going down, you need electrical. So it's not really just the lights, the electrical has to be put in. So that takes up a fair amount of money. So our goal was this year, we went in front of Riverview Town Hall, and I think that just looks so nice. You're driving across and you see the Riverview sign and the lights there. Then we'll continue to the east and throughout the town. It'll just go throughout. So hopefully each year we can expand it a little bit more.
It really is magical. I think that's the best way to describe it. It's just, it's like no other experience to walk along the trail, and just the community coming together. Like you said, it represents Riverview well, I think, in what we define as our values and what the town is all about. So next stop is Eric's house. We're going to do your front yard, buddy.
Great. Lights are expensive, so if you guys want to do that for me, that's fantastic.
But when you do look at what you can see, like when you look at $30,000, you think, oh, you should be able to do so much with that. But I mean, it is a commercial grade light that we're using and whatever. So it is fairly expensive. You can't get as far as you would think you'd be able to if you're buying $30,000 of lights at your home. You probably have quite a bit, but no, it's pretty exciting, and it is magical, and it is Riverview. Like all I ever hear is from citizens is they love a feel of Riverview, and that is certainly shows us how we are as a community, the feel,
Absolutely.
Family. Yeah.
We've discussed a lot of the positives or the COVID. Obviously, we've discussed a lot of the positives and the highlights. Were there other challenges that the town faced in 2020 that stand out?
I'm trying to think of more challenges that we had. Like I said, the biggest challenge that I can think of is for staff, because a lot of times with COVID, when there'd be a report from the government, well, daily, but staff wasn't aware of what those were going to be. So they would make the announcement, and citizens would expect right away that if the park was going to be open or this was going to be done, that we should be able to do it right immediately. But there was a lot more involved, sometimes not even understanding what exactly, because it wasn't very clear. Sometimes you had to dig into it a little more and contact the province. So I think that was a big challenge for staff for sure. Can you think anything else, Deputy Mayor, that was there?
Yeah, I think that was a big one, is just not being able to react as quickly as we might wanted to what the province was giving out, and then trying to figure out how does this impact our operations, what's going to look like for programming. I know personally one of the challenges, and I know you would have experienced this too, Your Worship, would just be that lack of connection with residents and not being able to be out there in person. And, we kind of, that's one of the most important things that we do as elected officials, is to try and get out there and connect with people, and not having the same opportunities to do that, I found to be quite a big challenge this year as well. That
was really hard. And with my colleagues, when we were talking, like probably about 40% of what we did was events and functions, that we were going to, and evenings and weekends and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it certainly was different. Another thing that we all had to get used to is Zoom meetings, and I hated having to chair a meeting by Zoom, our council meetings, because it was hard. It was really hard, because this isn't something we were trained for or didn't know anything about. And, do you put your hand up, or do you do this when you go to vote? And so
No matter how hard I wave, sometimes I don't get seen.
And I mean, that was the whole thing. And I used to have to say to everyone, like I'm not trying to avoid you. It's just who I see first, because you're watching a screen and everybody would move around on the screen. They never stayed in the same spot. I don't know why.
It was a lot of learning and a lot of adapting. And I think, we, like any business, I'm sure you guys experienced that too, Eric. And, everybody had to adapt to a new way of doing things. And the municipalities no exemption from that. We had to do the same thing. But, to repeat something that's already been said, it does. Our staff deserve a lot of kudos for leading us through that and helping us adapt with the new technology and the great planning that they did. And we had a team in place that dealt with this stuff and provided daily updates and things too. So they did a really great job. And then to our whole staff at the town of Riverview, from public works to our maintenance crews and parks and rec and directors and everybody, everybody worked really hard to make sure that those regulations were implemented safely, to make sure that residents were going to stay safe, to make sure that staff were going to stay safe in their daily workday. So, a big congratulations and thank you to all of our staff at the town who have done a really good job at, powering through this whole pandemic.
And it was really hard on them. I mean, so many things, like, that the citizens like so much to be able to go to the events in the parks, the children and the adults, and Wednesday nights, all of those things. How much the citizens enjoy it. But like you say, it has to be safety first. You have to follow. I mean, as we know, it doesn't even stay in one color. Like, we've changed from yellow to orange and back again, and just in this short while. And so, no, there was no preparing for sure, but I say we certainly, I think we can be very proud of how we all handle it, really.
As a community, we did very well. Riverview residents were great too. Lots of mask wearing along the riverfront trail. Everybody seemed to be fairly respectful in this town. And I think that's, as a community, it's a great testament to our values and the togetherness that we really value in this town. And everybody sort of looked out for one another. As long as you stayed away from some social media things and ignored some comments here and there, it was okay. But
Yeah.
So looking forward to 2021, you got any personal things you're excited about for the upcoming year?
Well, I mean, one of the biggest things, one of the first things that we're going to have is the closing of the Chocolate River Station. And that's a whole new positive direction. We have an election. The election will be happening this May. I can't see that will ever be delayed again. And I mean, you just think of that. Just think of the election being delayed a year. Like, I mean, nobody had ever heard tell of such a thing, right? And, all the things that happened. But no, that'll be really positive going forward. And like I said, I know that real estate is not going to change. That's going to be very positive. Hopefully, there's quite a few developments that are happening. If we can get them, if the developer can get those done, we're going to have people moving here, and then the people that want to sell their home and have nowhere to go, they're going to be able to move. So that's going to open up a whole great, so great for the economy for sure. Because we have a lot of people moving here from other areas who they see what great lifestyle we have, and there's jobs, and so it's really positive going forward. We just need to get this pandemic behind us. and yeah, and I mean, the thing of it is there, like, we can see light because there is a vaccine now, right? And so, we can see that that's going to be positive going forward, for sure.
Absolutely. And I think we have the early work on the Riverview Recreation Complex that'll be starting towards the end of 2021. I think they do some site prep and all of that. So that's a project that, I mean, you and I have been working as council members for a long time on, to see that finally come to fruition and see the beginnings of that work to start to take place.
Hopefully, as long as if all goes well, it's another one of those things.
Knock on wood.
Say I'll go well, because we are waiting on positive comments from the provincial and federal government there too, to help us with that. And I'm hoping that, as we talked about before, like we really looked after and made sure we didn't have to take any money from the province, because we weren't in a deficit situation. So I'm really hoping the province will look at us kindly when we're asking for funds for our Riverview Recreation Center, for sure.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, but I mean, that is in the works, and hopefully it continues, because that's going to be great. I'm just, all of those things. A new pool is something that's really needed, and the indoor walking is going to be for all age citizens are going to get to enjoy that. So that's going to be very positive for our town too.
Another thing earlier, Mayor, was the causeway closing and the impact that's going to have. So I know there's been some work, some public information sessions and things like that. But what is your message, if you have a message? I'm putting you on the spot here, to residents going into, I think at same time as the election, roughly May. They'll be closing the causeway for, I think it's up to 6 months. That's going to be a challenge. What would you say to residents?
That's going to be a huge challenge, and it's right. The date that they're giving us right now is May the 1st, and I'm dreading it, tell you the truth, because no matter how much we have prepared and what we have done everything that we can with the intersection at the Gunningsville Bridge, and then this year Bridgedale Boulevard, and meeting and talking to citizens. Hopefully with COVID, some of the people that had worked at home during COVID will be able to work at home. And but it's going to be very painful. And my biggest concern is safety for the town, or the citizens of the town, because you want to, the province assures us that they have looked into safety concerns for if there happened to be an accident or whatever, and they've looked at all that. They haven't really shared a lot with us. We know, Deputy Mayor, that even though this is a provincial project, that we're going to get the calls. and
we already do.
Yeah, we already do. And but people, we have to get through it. My biggest thing that I keep saying over and over again whenever I get an opportunity to talk to the province is, if they can do anything to shorten the time, they're saying 4 to 6 months now. Well, if they can be on the very low end of that or lower, that would be really great. And we can survive that, and we can move forward. But it's going to be a challenge for everyone. We're all going to have to adjust our schedules and do whatever we can to keep the burden as I don't know it's going to be terrible.
I appreciate your candor, and you're right. I work from home anyways, but my wife works in Moncton, so I know that's going to be tough for her and for so many people. But on the flip side, we've survived 2020, and
yes.
There was a time where we weren't sure we were going to get here. So
yeah.
Maybe that's maybe we just need to remember that we got through this.
That's right, and that's what we have to. And some of the things, like I said, that we had to do during 2020. But if there are businesses that will actually allow their staff to work at home or change their hours, even, that they could, because it's going to be the peak hours that are going to be the worst, and the coming home at night's going to be pretty rough too. So everyone will have to keep their patience as much as they can coming forward, for sure.
Well, Riverview is a community of people that do really good at supporting one another and working collaboratively, and hopefully we can remember that as we all struggle with this together, and try and get through it at the same time. So
I have something maybe we could do. I don't know about everyone else, but I have a few COVID pounds on, so maybe we'll look at more active transportation.
I'm right there. Absolutely.
That we could walk across the bridge.
Get on the bicycle, whatever it takes, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
Rollerblade, whatever. That's all right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we want to thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us tonight. We really appreciate you taking some of your time on a Sunday night. We wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And again, on behalf of Eric and myself, thank you so much for taking some time to chat tonight.
Well, thank you very much, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you also and your families and everyone in Riverview.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Bye.
And once again, we'd like to thank Mayor Seamans for joining us tonight. It was great having her join us for this year-end wrap-up. This was the final episode for us in 2020.
And it's been a great couple of months, Eric. I had a blast doing this with you.
That was a good time. Absolutely. It gave us something to work on and to do when we, couldn't see humans in real life.
Well, there's a couple of people that we could not have done this without. First and foremost, we have to thank Dennis Mazerol, our producer, who does an amazing job putting our episode videos together for us and making us look far more professional than we actually are. I want to thank...
He didn't do this one, though. He didn't do this one. So this one didn't look great. This is totally on Andrew.
That's why there's glare and it's just, it's brutal.
Yeah.
We want to thank Shelley Lewis for doing all of our graphic design for us as well and doing the logo. And we also want to thank all of the guests that we've had on our community spotlight videos. We appreciate all of you giving your time to share with us in the community about what you're doing.
Absolutely. And we want to thank the folks who have watched along, whether you've watched one or you're following all the videos. We really appreciate it. We're looking forward to doing more of these in 2021 after the holiday season. 2021, it's got to be a better year than what we just went through. It just has to be.
There's no way it could be any worse.
Exactly. So we hope you'll join us for that.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. As Eric said, we want to thank you again for your support. Have a wonderful, happy holidays and a happy new year. And we'll see you in 2021.
Take care.